Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah if you're new here, and I am filming today an Ask Sarah video where you guys sent me your questions. Some of you sent me even video questions, some of you brave souls, so I really appreciate that. If you guys want to send me a question, it's asksarah@ourtribeofmany.com. And I really love it if you could turn your phone sideways and send me a question by video, but if not, I'll still probably answer it. So today I want to get started right away. There is a question that came in from Emily. I think she might go by M, which I think is really cool. EM. But she said, "Hi Sarah, so thankful for your channel and how I always come away from your videos feeling encouraged." That is so sweet to say, first of all. That encourages me to keep going. My question is, what are your favorite read aloud books that you've read with your kids? Okay, that is a really big question to answer because we use our homeschool curriculum is Sunlight, which is known for being full of books. We read so many books, and many of them are really good. There are some that are not great, but almost all of them are good, and a lot of them are really, really good. But when I just try to think about it quick, and I asked my kids before I answered this one on video, what stuck out to them, some of them were the same. But some of our favorites have been, for younger kids or like elementary age, would be 21 Balloons, Around the World in 80 Days. Johnny Tremaine was a really popular one. Carry On Mr. Bowditch, Caddy Woodlawn, all very good. And then if I jumped to the like junior high age that we've done, maybe young high school, it would be Mara, Daughter of the Nile, Banner in the Sky, Sherwood Ring. We love that one too. Year of Impossible Goodbyes. I think that one was my favorite because it taught me a lot. But anyway, besides all those books, which I'll list them all down below in the description box if you missed that because I talk fast and I had a lot of them. One thing I discovered is that I really like young adult historical fiction, which is a genre I never would have thought I personally liked, but so many of Sunlight's books are historical fiction. It has given my kids a huge love for history, which actually was my biggest weakness. I did not like history, but I went to public school, just learned through textbooks. My kids love history. They know way more about history than I do. And I believe it's because of the love they got through starting with the historical fiction books that we read. Now I look for young adult historical fiction books. I think they're amazing. I learned so much about time periods and life at that time. And it makes me like history more too. In fact, a lot of the books, my mom and I share books back and forth. Whenever we read something we like, we always share books back and forth. And I've given her a number of our Sunlight books. I'm like, oh, you have to read this one. Mara, Daughter of the Nile. I gave her that one. It was so good. Oh, and on another side note, when I was a young mom, I thought I could not stand reading to my kids because my kids would bring me books and I'd have them memorized because, you know, little kids, they want to read the same books all the time. And I just like had to force myself to sit down and read with them. I thought I was a bad mom that didn't like reading aloud to my kids. Fast forward a little while till we got into stories that were interesting. I actually love reading aloud with my kids. It's like my favorite thing to do. In fact, a lot of people in this particular curriculum, they put their kids together in groupings, which makes a lot more sense than what I do. But I love that time with my kids so much, of sitting down and reading aloud to them, that I've kept them in separate grades, which is a lot more reading for me, but I've had that time to sit with them and read with them. Now I record my voice sometimes, but I know what to bring out with them and then discuss with them later after they listen to me read it even, but I love reading aloud. Who knew? Who would have guessed? So I am coming to you like maybe 6 days post-op. I told you guys a little look into the future is that I had surgery a number of days ago, abdominal surgery. I haven't given you a lot of details of what and why, but I will say recovery is going okay. I thought recovery was going really well, and then like day 5 yesterday, I guess, I started doing too much. Now I'm hurting again a lot, but you know, that's the hard thing. It's not doing too much. Anyway, that's just a little sneak peek. This week you're gonna get some videos of us in Florida and what went down to cause me to have surgery. But yeah, thank you guys for being around our channel and watching. I really appreciate it. Okay, I got a couple really good emails from Julie. You guys are gonna like this one. I love watching your content and think this new Ask Sarah segment's great. My question is, are you ever concerned that some of your kids might rebel after being raised in a fairly strict or conservative home? I'm getting this from the no commercial comment in the previous video. I think this message came in like day 1. I'm still on day 1 messages. So if you message me, please be patient. I'm getting to them. As many as I can. Okay, my parents were pretty strict and conservative and tried to protect me from a lot of things growing up, and I had a couple of rebellious years when I went to college. I also found myself in a bit of trouble during that time because I simply didn't understand how the world worked. There was shame attached to this as well. I want better for my kids, don't we all, and obviously want to protect them from the harshness of the world, but not overprotect them so much that they rebel or are fearful of the world or ignorant of how it works. The line is different for every family. How do you find the line and not feel anxious about screwing up your kids? Thanks, Julie. And then she wrote again and said, I just want to add that I'm a mom to 3 kids. She gave me their ages. And she comes at this question with sincerity, not judgment. We moms are all in this together. And she left a few encouraging words. But I really like her email because I think it's such a valid question. It's something Solo and I talk about often. There's definitely a balance. When I talked about commercials for my kids, I was definitely talking about my younger kids. I think she said her kids are age 10 and under, and I would have included them in the younger ones, not my older teenagers. But the question is so interesting because I agree with her that every family is different. The line for every family is different for sure. But yes, it is such a balance because we don't want our kids to get to the age like they move out and they know nothing about the world. That is not our intention at all. We're not trying to shield them from all worldly things. What we are trying to do is keep their innocence when they're children and let them just have like a childhood, you know, a childhood where they're free from all these cares of the world all the time. We want them to just have a childhood that they love. They learn how to work hard. They played hard most of the time, and they just really enjoyed it. Don't we want that for our kids? Yeah. We don't want them to know too much things that are burdensome to them. You know what I mean? But as our kids get older, actually the books that I talked about, they're really good about the historical fiction books especially. They tell hard stories. The Year of Impossible Goodbyes, it is hard stories. I think that's why that book stuck out in my mind so much, like what people have to go through. We've taken our kids around the world. They have seen like hard things. They know the harshness of the world. We are not trying to shield them from all the things that are going on in the world. There's a lot of things going on in the world that we agree with and a lot of things we do not agree with at all. And as our kids become teenagers, we really start having conversations a lot. Our kids listen to like more political podcasts, our older ones, and they know more about what's probably going on in the world than I do sometimes. So they are very well aware of the world. As far as whether they will go through a season of rebellion or not, even down to my 16-year-old, they each are developing their own opinions. They're things we talk about together. They're not always the same as Solo's and my opinions, but Solo and I don't always share the same opinion on every single thing. And so we encourage them, like, let's talk about what you're seeing or what you're hearing. What do you think about that? You know, and we're seeing them develop their own opinions and theories about things. They are a part of a youth group. Judah even is leading our youth group right now, which he's very young, but he's doing an amazing job. And he's helping kids that are coming from all different kinds of backgrounds who are dealing with all kinds of things that my own kids have never dealt with. I went to public school myself as a child, and I think my parents also did a good job of sort of keeping home life just kind of a safe and protected space. And then the big bad world out there was something that they helped us in our home to kind of face and to they helped us think through things and talk through things. And so we're basically doing the same thing now, but as they're getting older, we're definitely letting them be more and more exposed to the world. In fact, my bigger kids are always telling my young kids to turn their eyes. So they are protecting them from like the commercials or the different shows, or they'll tell them, no, you can't watch that show. And Solo feels the same way. We don't want our kids to grow up just not even knowing what's going on in the world at all. In fact, I think they have a very good perspective, and they try to get all perspectives of what's going on and form their opinions, and I'm really impressed by what I'm seeing out of them. So I think keeping an open conversation, it's okay to shield your kids when you're younger, but letting them as they get older be exposed to things in ways that you're also talking through them all the time really helps. But as far as what my kids do when they leave the house, they're gonna make their own life decisions, and that's on them, but we are doing the best we can to give them the best start that we possibly can. So I think, like you said, there's no good formula for it. Not probably. There's no good formula, but we're doing the best we can to instill the right values in them. And on a lighter note, Richard, I don't think it's Richard. Maybe it is Richard, but I don't think it is. Asked me, what's the brand of washing machine I have been interrupted 1,000 times in this room. Might not be my ideal filming spot. So what's the name brand of washing machine that you purchased for our tribe of many? Okay, we just had to get one, and I don't even know what the name brand is. We went to like a salvage warehouse place that's like extras or dented machines or whatever. And I'll tell you, I look for no agitator. No, I look for an agitator. I want an agitator. I look for non-electrical panel as much as possible. I want it old school, knobs, that kind of thing. It is way, way less likely to break in my experience when it doesn't have the electrical panel. Every single machine I've had that had that big fancy electrical panel ended up breaking that part of it. But at our other house, when we had time to shop around, we got a Speed Queen. We will be moving that, I think, once we sell the house, and we love the Speed Queen. It is not that much money for how great it is. I've talked to several men because they know our names well for coming out to repair machines, and they all say that the Speed Queen is the one they're rarely called for, rarely, and it works the best. So I took their recommendation, and it has saved us money over time for not having to call repairmen. Like, it's worth it. Speed Queen. All right, let me just interject here. I wanted to tell you about something that friends of mine are doing. Good friends of ours, Solo and I, they have started a homeschool community. They have gathered a number of homeschooling, not want to say influencers, but like people doing online things in the homeschool genre that are from all different like homeschool philosophies, and they have brought them all together for a community, and it is so amazing. I'm a part of it myself. I'm not a contributor, but I've been in there just looking around and seeing what's going on, and it is really such an excellent resource. I'm always asked for help with homeschooling. Where do I go? What are the greatest resources? The value for what you're getting for this monthly subscription, I tell you, I think they charge too little, but it is wonderful, and you can get some real more one-on-one help from this community and so many resources. So I'm going to leave that down below in the description box if you're interested at all. Like I said, it's good friends of ours who started it, and we trust them a lot. So check that out. Definitely great for Christian homeschool families, I would say, to get some support. So wanted to let you know about that. I also, none of this is sponsored by the way, but I also have a friend up in Canada. She helped me really design my kitchen, my remodel. She's a good friend of ours. Anyway, she has put together some notebooks. I guess they're journals really. One called The Praying Wife. It's a 1-year guided journal. One is called The Praying Parent, and one is called The Gratitude Journal. So it gives some prompts in there. They're really, really cool. She's just a good friend of mine who has done this. If you would like, if you're a journaler especially, and you love beautiful things, and you love to pray and journal, I love prayer journaling. I think it helps me really in seasons where I feel very unfocused. It helps me focus when I'm praying. And so I love that these are really focused, like praying for my husband and praying for my kids and just gratitude in general, which keeps everything working better, you know, up here when we have that perspective. So I'll put those down in the description box below so you can check them out. I love my friend Marisa. She's doing such a great job encouraging women. So that's awesome. And then also one thing that is sponsored by myself is that if your house is feeling really chaotic, I wanted to tell you about my course, which is just helps to bring peace to your home. So it's a home management course. It's really for those of you that are feeling overwhelmed. We have even a community element to it, and that has been so amazing. I love getting to know the women that are in there. So if that's something that you're looking for, I will also put that down below so you can check that out. Let's get back to questions. Gabriella asked me, she said she wants to live on a homestead one day and would like to know how I keep little kids safe. I suppose you can't watch them all the time, and getting lost outside seems dangerous. Thanks for the answer. I look forward to a next segment. Okay, Gabriella, that's a really good question. We do have a lot of acres here, and we have the woods, so I guess they could get lost. They have a little bit. I would never describe myself as a helicopter parent at all. Like, I'm probably the opposite. Solo would be a little more to that side. I think there's always one parent that's a little more nervous about things and one that's a little more not nervous enough, you know? Maybe I would be the not nervous enough one. So we let our kids just freely play outside a lot. I think that it's very good for them. Even, I don't hover over everything they do. Like, I think it's good, especially for boys, to just like test limits in some things. So of course we have limits, but they do get to play. They get to play freely out there. So we have a couple rules we set up. If you go into the woods or down to the water, which are two places we can't really see you, you don't go alone. So that's just a common theme of ours. We have don't go alone, and we always had that in our neighborhood too, at our other house. So if you wanted to go around the block or you wanted to do this or that, it would be rare occasion that I would say yes to a request in which they were going to be alone. So most of the time they don't go alone. They have a sibling go with them. We have the benefit of them having many siblings, and the little kids can never go without an older kid, especially down to the water. So yeah, we just have those parameters put in place, and it's worked well. I guess I haven't worried too much about predators, but at certain times of the evening, like at dusk, and if it's getting dark, we do worry about that. Like someone will go out with, like the older kid will have a stick, or our older boys have knives that they would carry with them if they're going for a walk. They do go out alone. It's not my favorite, but usually they'll have like a phone with them or something, because my older boys like to go walk. They prayer walk a lot, like late at night. And so actually Judah doesn't usually have a phone. We need to have a whistle they have out there with them. But we've been training them to the bell to come home when we're ringing the dinner bell. Yeah, so we're still figuring things out here, but some of the rules that apply to our other house work really well here. Okay, Nicole wrote me, and I really love her question because I really relate to her a lot. So she said, I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to ask another mom of many blessings questions pertaining to large family life. Large families are not common where I live, and it's definitely been a different experience for my extended family. Thank you for taking the time to answer my questions. Okay, I can relate to that because I did not know any large families for a long time, like personally, besides one family member who didn't live where we were. My question is in regards to balancing responsibilities as a mom, homeschool mom, with the demands as a Christian woman from church, extended family, etc. I'm due next month with our 8th child. Our oldest just turned 10. Wow. Wow is all I can say. I often feel the pull between having lots of littles, managing our home, homeschooling, etc., and the expectations from church to help others in need with meals, that kind of thing, help out with church functions, or help out my parents with things that they need to get done around the house when, frankly, I'm just too exhausted. I want to honor the Lord in everything and be a blessing to others, but lately I feel content, fully content, and overwhelmed with the needs of my own home. It could just be pregnancy talking. So my question is, how do you fight the perception that you're superwoman just because you have a lot of kids? And then she wrote a PS. Whenever I try to draw a line between what I can and cannot do during the season, it seems to be seen as a weakness. And the response, especially from family, is basically that I should stop having children. Okay, that is a loaded question. Let me take the one, she highlighted the question, how do you fight the perception of being a superwoman? I will tell anybody and everybody that I am not superwoman. When people tell moms of many that, I think it comes from a place of like complimenting, like, wow, you're superwoman. I can't imagine. I can't hardly handle my 2 or 3 or 1. But it's just not true. We aren't superwomen just because we have a lot of children. I think that having just a few kids and having a lot of kids can be very similar in many things. In fact, some things are easier when you have a lot of kids. So I feel that I do fight that perception too. I don't love it, but I do think a little bit it can be your pregnancy talking, because when I am pregnant or just had a baby, I have the exact same feelings you just described. I can't help anybody else out. I learned very quickly not to complain to people that don't have a lot of children. And so when you don't have anybody else like that in your life, it is hard, because when you complain to people who have a lot of children, even if they're people in your life that love you, a lot of times they will say, well, you're the one that had all the kids, you know, which is not super helpful response, because we all have challenges in our life, right? Well, if we cannot I'm not saying that we have the right to complain, but if we can't like talk it out with anybody, or just say, okay, this part, I can't do this right now, it's just a lot for me. If we can't be honest with people, it's difficult without them criticizing our life choices, you know, when having a lot of children is not wrong. So to me, it helped when I found real life in-person friends that have a lot of kids. And I realized that the things I was experiencing are normal. When I felt like in certain seasons, I felt like I just had to do the bare minimum, which was take care of the responsibilities that God has given me in my home and my children only, they understood and they validated that, and they had felt that same way. And often it happens in pregnancy and when you have a baby around, that you feel very, very overwhelmed with things. I love to be a part of our church. I mean, I'm a pastor's wife. I love leading in that way, that capacity, but I don't always have a lot of capacity for it. And so I have learned to say no to things that I will regret saying yes to later. Just saying no up front is a lot better than trying and making everybody's life in my home miserable because I was trying to do too much. So there's just that balance. But I think one thing that I have learned a lot from, I don't know your age, I don't know how many babies you have left to have, but one thing I've learned a lot from other large family moms that I've gotten to know in real life is that some of them, their youngest is like 4 or 5 now, or 8 or 9 even. And I am amazed at the capacity of these women, what all they're able to do. And I think because all of those years they had so many little ones, that is a lot in itself. That is so much in itself. And so they learn to do a lot, juggle a lot, manage a lot. And then when their youngest is 4 or 5 or 8 or 9 or 10, they have a lot more capacity to do all those extra things you were talking about. And it seems like those years can come very, very quickly. Like for me, I'm looking at them, I don't know if I'm going to have another baby, so I'm looking at them really close, like looking at them like they're very close, you know. As my little one gets bigger and bigger, it already is so much easier. She's 18, I don't even know how old she is. That's terrible. 20 months maybe? She's an October baby. She already is so much easier than having a new baby, and I'm not pregnant right now, and it's just already my capacity, I'm noticing, to do other things outside the house is growing more. So I think my biggest advice to you is to really pray that the Lord gives you some real life friends that are large family moms, because it can help your perspective a ton. It just made me feel a lot less crazy, because so many of people in my life have small families, and even the big families, and most of the people in my life, big family is 4 kids or 5. Like a really big family is 5. So, and I'm not saying a really big family in the world right now is 5 kids. That's really big. And so when you're like got all these extras beyond that, it really helps to have people in your life that can relate and can help you feel less crazy. When things get very, very overwhelming for me though, I think I love to go back to the basics. Just the basics is keeping everything clean, keeping dinner on the table, and taking care of my children. And then I add in the homeschool and that routine. If I can get to that routine, I feel like everything's kind of right in the world, and I can't handle much more than that usually. Sometimes even the homeschool has to be put aside for a minute. And yeah, I just go back to the basics in those kind of seasons. So, you know, that's enough. It's more than enough, because you're being a loving mom to your kids, and you're taking care of them, and they're getting family life, and they're a part of something that's bigger than them, and it's all good for them too. They're learning along the way. There's something about the pressures and demands we feel as women while we're raising our kids and in these seasons. I think so. We watch people that are doing so much. Honestly, I'm doing so much. I'm doing too much most of the time, because I'm doing YouTube, and we're pastoring, and we have all these kids, and sometimes I'm like, okay, it's too much. I just want to put something aside. But there's so much pressure to do so much, and we don't have to do all of that. Like, I think the most important thing I do by far is taking care of my kids, and then homeschooling them, and my husband, you know, like just running my house. That's the thing I love the most. It's the thing that is the most important that I do. And so I understand all these questions about balancing everything, because it feels like we have to balance so much. And I just want to tell women all the time, you don't have to balance all of that. Like, you can just do the thing that's the most important, you know, and feel good about it at the end of the day. This one I also relate to a lot. This one's from E. And she said, I am also a ministry wife. My husband is currently a youth pastor in Michigan, but we feel like the Lord is moving us into this head pastorship in the near future. We currently have 4 littles and would love to continue to grow our family. As I'm sure you know, ministry is one of these jobs that's especially flexible, but also especially demanding. Yes, yes, and yes. Do you have any wisdom on family and ministry balance, and how do you handle it all when the kids were little and Solo was in a busy season? How have you found the best way to encourage your husband through a rough time at church, a transitional time in ministry, or burnout? I love to see your sweet relationship with your kiddos and partnership with Solo. Thanks for sharing your journey. It's encouraging. Okay, when all our kids were little, I would say it's just as challenging now as when they were all little, but I love to be a part of the church ministry. I think I just said this a few minutes ago, but I can't do nearly as much as like my mom could do. My mom had 2 kids, and we were a little older when we took the lead pastor role, when my parents did. And so she was able to do more than I was able to do. And I really just cannot compare myself to other pastors' wives. I can't compare myself to her, although she set a great example to me of being who she was. Like, I remember her saying, okay, I'm going to tell on her, sorry mom, but she would say like she didn't love women's ministry, but pastors' wives are supposed to run the women's ministry. So she would try her best, but she'd also find other people that could help her in that or do it. And so I feel like that kind of little lesson taught me that it's okay to be who I am and not compare myself to every other pastor's wife. Having a large family, honestly, has kept me way less involved. I think even in a manner of speaking, it makes Solo not have the church be his whole life because he has a lot of responsibilities at home. I don't think that's bad. I think that's actually good, because sometimes pastors, their whole life can revolve around the church. And let me tell you from experience, church people come and go. And so we love on them. We do the best we can while they're with us, but sometimes they leave too. We have to release them, you know? And so our number one responsibility is to our kids and our family. And so we're always trying to like reevaluate that. He obviously, so much of his time goes to the church. I do specific things that take a certain amount of my time, but I can't do as much as I would like to. And that's because I know the most important thing for me is in the home, but I definitely keep involved in certain things that I really enjoy and I know can be very helpful to him especially. So for me, I found the best thing to do is focus on what helps him the most. Not necessarily everybody, but what helps him the most. And so this few things I'm doing are things that really help my husband. And so that's how we've found the balance in that. I don't know that it's like the right thing or the perfect way or whatever, but I do notice that coming from a small family, pastor's family, and now having a large family, pastor's family, there is a difference, and I don't think it's all been bad. I think it's been good. It's been good because other people have also had to take responsibilities that maybe would traditionally be mine. I should have had Solo here to answer that question too, but I hope that helps a little. I do think that narrowing it down to being there for what is most helpful for my husband is the most helpful for the church. Tricia, I think, asked if I could share the books that I use to learn to can and make kombucha. Okay, I do have some canning books here. I'll grab those. But for kombucha, I did not learn from a book. I learned from Mary's Nest. Mary's Nest makes kombucha. If you search that on YouTube, she has a very informative video. In fact, I just sent it to a friend. I don't know Mary, but she has a few very helpful videos. I mean, she has a lot of videos, I think, but a few have helped me a lot, and her kombucha is one of them. It's such a step-by-step process, and it taught me everything I really needed to know. So I have a friend that's making it, and she just was asking me some questions. I'm like, let me send you the video. So I'll just share that video with you guys too. As far as pressure canning, which is the only canning I've done, I've liked this book, I've liked this book, and I've liked this book. My favorite book is With My Canner right now. It's a guideline that has every single time and pressure that I need for every single thing that I would pressure can, and I love that book. I reference it often. A viewer sent it to me, and it's just like a simple binded up book. Please check out my course down below if your house feels overwhelming to you and you're wanting some relief in that area and just wanting to bring peace to your home. If you have a question for me, it might take me a little while to get to it, but I will get to it. I would love it if you would drop that in my email, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.